There is a kind of sadness that has no name in any human language. You have felt it, perhaps without knowing what to call it. It arrives not like a storm, but like a tide coming in slowly, quietly, until you realize the ground beneath you is no longer dry. It does not announce itself. It simply settles into the space behind your eyes, behind your chest, behind all the ordinary moments of your day, and it stays. Doctors find nothing wrong. Tests return normal. And yet something inside you knows, with a certainty deeper than logic, that something is profoundly missing. Not broken, missing. As though a piece of you exists somewhere else, somewhere you cannot quite reach, and the distance between here and there is the exact weight you carry every morning when you open your eyes. In many esoteric and spiritual traditions, this experience has been described not as an illness, but as a remembrance, a soul-level recognition of distance. Some call it longing. Some call it melancholy without cause. And in certain strands of cosmic mythology, particularly those woven around the Pleiadians star cluster, this particular ache has been given a name that may resonate somewhere deep within you. They call it cosmic grief. Not grief for something lost in this lifetime. Grief for a home so ancient and so luminous that your human vocabulary does not yet possess the words to describe it fully. Perhaps you have looked up at the night sky and felt something you could not explain. Not wonder exactly. Not simple admiration for the beauty of stars. Something older than that. Something that felt, impossibly, like recognition. As though the darkness between those distant lights was not empty at all, but familiar. As though somewhere up there, in the cold and silent expanse, something was looking back at you with the same quiet intensity with which you were looking up. You are not imagining this, and you are not alone in feeling it. According to various spiritual and esoteric interpretations, the Pleiadians, that small and ancient cluster of stars visible to the human eye in the constellation of Taurus, has held a significant place in the cosmologies and mythologies of cultures across the entire planet for thousands of years. The ancient Greeks wove stories of 7 sisters into the sky. Indigenous peoples of Australia mapped their ceremonies around the rising of that cluster. The Lakota of North America, the Maori of New Zealand, the farmers of ancient Mesopotamia, all of them looked toward those same stars and felt something pull at them from within. Whether understood as literal cosmic origin or as a powerful symbol of collective human longing, the Pleiadians have functioned across time and culture as a kind of spiritual compass. A reminder that human beings have always sensed they belong to something larger than what this world alone can contain. This is the symbolic transmission that some spiritual teachings describe as Pleiadian energy. Not a physical signal from distant space, but a metaphorical current, a quality of inner awareness that seems to arise in certain sensitive souls like a quiet and persistent whisper. A whisper that says, simply, you come from light. You are not always this heavy, and the weight you carry is not a flaw in you. It is the friction between where you are and where your soul remembers being. But the message was not arriving from the stars alone. It was also rising from somewhere inside your own chest, from the very center of the exhaustion you have been trying to explain to yourself for longer than you can remember. Think about the mornings, the particular quality of those first moments after waking, before the mind assembles its list of tasks. For many people, mornings feel neutral, a blank page. But for you, perhaps mornings have their own gravity, a heaviness that precedes thought, a low, persistent ache that has nothing to do with how much you slept. It is simply there, the way weather is simply there. And you rise anyway, because that is what you do. You move through the hours, you participate, you smile when it is appropriate to smile. And all the while, something in you watches from a slight distance, as though witnessing your own life through a thin and translucent screen. This is not clinical depression, though it can wear a similar face. This is something that standard frameworks of mental health were not designed to fully address, because those frameworks begin with the assumption that the human experience is the entire experience. But what if, according to certain spiritual philosophies, it is not? What if the soul that inhabits your body arrived, here carrying memories that your conscious mind cannot access, but your body has never forgotten? What if the homesickness you feel is not metaphor, but the most honest truth available to you right now? Some spiritual traditions, particularly those in the lineage of what might be called starseed teachings, describe exactly this. They speak of souls who originated in higher frequency dimensions, who chose, before incarnating into human form, to enter the density of Earth in order to carry light into places where light was needed. These souls, the teachings say, accepted the terms of the agreement with full awareness. They knew they would forget. They knew Earth would be heavy and confusing. And they came anyway, because the love behind the decision was larger than the fear of forgetting. Whether this is understood as literal cosmological truth or as a deeply resonant spiritual metaphor, the emotional texture it describes is unmistakable to those who have lived it. The sense of not quite belonging, not in a dramatic way, simply a quiet, consistent awareness that the frequency of your inner world does not match the frequency of much of what surrounds you. That conversations that seem to satisfy others leave you feeling oddly empty. That you have spent enormous energy trying to find the thing, the place, the person, the purpose that will finally make this world feel like home. And that, somehow, it never quite does. And then, something begins to shift. Not all at once. The shift does not announce itself with fanfare. It comes the way dawn comes, so gradually that for a long time you cannot tell whether it is happening or whether you are only hoping it is. But there is a moment, and you may already know the particular quality of this moment, when the grief changes. When it stops feeling only like loss and begins to feel like something else, like direction, like information, like the strange and tender gift of a soul that has not forgotten everything after all, but is beginning, slowly and in its own time, to remember. In esoteric Pleiadian symbolism, this moment of shift is sometimes described as the awakening of what certain traditions call light codes. This term, as used in many spiritual and meditative teachings, does not refer to anything verifiable in the conventional scientific sense. It is, rather, a metaphorical language for a recognizable inner experience, the moment when a long, dormant sense of purpose begins to stir. When the noise of the outer world quiets, just enough for you to hear something underneath it. When you stop chasing the feeling of belonging outside yourself and turn, finally and perhaps tentatively, inward. These symbolic light codes, in this esoteric framework, are not transmitted from outside. They are already present, woven into the structure of a soul that has always known more than it currently remembers. The awakening is simply the process of returning to what was never truly lost. The grief was not a wound. It was a doorway. And you have been standing at that doorway for a very long time, your hand resting on its surface, not quite ready to push it open. Perhaps you are ready now. There is something important to acknowledge here, something that spiritual traditions often move past too quickly in their eagerness to offer comfort. The path through cosmic grief is not the erasure of grief. It is the transformation of it. There will be a phase, and you may already be in it, where the awakening of inner awareness does not immediately feel like relief, where the process of remembering surfaces not only light, but the layers of accumulated weight that have been covering the light. Old grief from this lifetime. Patterns inherited from those who came before you. The residue of years spent trying to fit into a shape that was never quite yours. This is the passage that esoteric traditions sometimes describe as the dark night of the soul. And it is, paradoxically, one of the most significant phases in the journey toward greater inner clarity. Because what is being asked of you here is not performance, not the forced positivity that the modern wellness world sometimes sells as spiritual attainment. What is being asked is presence. The willingness to sit with what is actually there, without flinching and without rushing toward resolution. The symbolism of Pleiadian energy, as interpreted in various contemporary spiritual traditions, holds a particular quality of gentleness around this passage. This symbolic guide does not demand that you be farther along than you are. It does not measure your progress against a timeline or compare your journey to anyone else's. It meets you in the grief itself, not with the message that the grief is wrong, but with the suggestion that the grief is intelligent, that it knows something, that it has been pointing, all along, towards something real within you that has been waiting for exactly this kind of honest recognition. What the sadness was trying to tell you was not that something was broken. It was that something was ready. Somewhere in your body, right now, there may be a place that holds the particular quality of your longing. It might live in the center of your chest, a warmth or an ache or both at once. It might live in the space behind your eyes, where tears arrive in moments that seem too beautiful or too sad for ordinary language. Place your attention there now, not to fix it, not to make it stop, simply to acknowledge it, to say quietly and without drama, I see you.